Winding down. We ready for bed here? Whew. My tea is still very hot. Ooh, hot tea, hot tea. No, I'm, what I always get, which is the, sweet and spicy tea. You want a sip? You can have a sip. Hot. And, okay. Oh, yeah, you can have a sip. Be careful, it's really hot. And a very gentle sip there. Okay. It's hot, I know. It is very hot. Well, your mom introduced me to this brand of tea, Good Earth. This is, one of the things that Good Earth has is they have these cool little quotes in all of their teas. And today's Good Earth quote is, "Don't be upset by the results you didn't get with the work you didn't do." That's a good one. I like Good Earth. Yeah, don't be upset about the results you didn't get with the work you didn't do. It's a good, good rules for advice. So, do you have your water ready? Nah, you do. Good. Good. So what was the best, what was the best part of your day? Nice. Yeah. I always loved hanging out with my friends too. Playing and doing sleepovers, and I remember I remember when I used to do sleepovers with my buddies, and I remember I learned that like it was really fun to go over to one of my friends' house and like run around in socks at first, and then after like 2 hours, those socks were completely destroyed, like they were stretched out and had holes in them. But we loved, like running around the basement and sliding around in our socks and stuff. Yeah, I have fond memories of that. Well, I'm glad that you had a fun time with your friends. I really am. And what'd you learn today? Oh, okay. Well, that's a classic question. Where do babies come from? Let me ask you. Things have changed since I was your age. I'm happy to answer all the questions you may have, but let me ask you, what do you know about about babies being made? Just genuinely curious. Yeah. There's a sperm and there's an egg. So, and have they gone into the whole like sexual organs thing and what makes boys different than girls and things like that? Kinda, sort of. Okay. Well, first of all, I want to be very careful with you because for me, the sex conversation was very awkward for me, and for reasons unknown, my mom wanted to be quite involved, and she felt I was an interesting kid. I'm sure you can kind of relate to this, but when I was in my childhood, up to like say age 10, 11, I was very much a mama's boy. Like I was with my mom all the time. I loved my mom. My mom was mommy. I love my daddy too, right? Mommy and daddy, when you're 7, 8, 9 years old, they're everything. And then you start to individuate, which is a very important process, that you become your own autonomous, independent human. Okay, and that's a very important phase to go through. And I remember my mom really struggled with that transition with me. And, when I started becoming interested in girls and stuff, she had a really tough time with it because she had like kind of a, let's just say, I found out later, a negative experience with boys and sex, and so there was a lot of like emotional baggage that came along with it, for lack of a better word. So I don't want to do that with you. I want to have a very open and honest dialogue, and I will answer your questions to the best of my ability. So yeah, and I think it's an important conversation. It's look, it's a massive, massive part about being a mammal. Our brains have evolved evolutionarily to prioritize reproduction over many, many other things, and this is for, I'm guessing you would concur with me, obvious evolutionary reasons. Like it's really important that a species continue and make babies, and without that, no more species. So it's very important that we have a very high drive to reproduce. Of course, the strange irony now is that, you and I have essentially the nervous system and the general biological makeup and brain synapses of a 2 million-year-old hunter-gatherer. Okay, so I'm guessing, as you know, life expectancy up until very, very, very recently was quite short. Now it's a bit misleading because you look at a stat and it says, well, the average person 400 years ago only lived to be 36. Well, that's not exactly true. The reality is if you made it to like 15, 12, you were going to likely live into your 50s or your 60s. The problem was you had so much infant mortality. It turns out having babies is really dangerous for the mother and the baby. It's a big deal. The way humans work, that's different than a lot of other mammals, is when a man and a woman have sex, okay, and he, do you mind if I get just kind of like medically graphic for a moment? Okay, so bear with me. Okay, when a man sticks his penis inside of a vagina, right, and sperm inseminates an egg, that egg, okay, it starts from this tiny little clump of cells, and through a kind of miracle that I will not claim to understand, somehow those little clumps of cells, half from your mother and half from me, they combined, and they somehow knew they had the genetic encoding that, if left to its own devices, will create you. This absolute miracle and joy and wonder that is you. And I'm telling you, like, your mom and I we often talk about how it is just wild that we were able to make you something that's so perfect and so wonderful, and it's just, I'm just saying, your mother and I love you so much, it's ridiculous, and we view you as this amazing miracle. maybe not, but it really, the more I think about, what it takes for this tiny little cells to form a brain, a heart, lungs, your nervous system, your cardiovascular system, the hairs on your head, your eye color, your cheekbones, all the things that make you you were encoded half in one of my sperm and half in one of your mother's eggs. And the result is absolutely astounding. Now, the problem is, and that's kind of getting back to, is that we live in a modern world. Most people that you and I know live to be in their 70s, 80s, 90s. Okay? Barring some horrible accident or disease. We expect to live 70, 80, 90 years. And the problem is, your DNA is set up that you are going to be, forgive my bluntness, the horniest you are ever going to be is going to be probably between the ages of roughly 14 to about 20, okay? That little 6-year period in there from like 14 to 20. And everything in your body, all your hormones are going to be firing, telling you that it is time to start making babies. And this is both a blessing and a curse, of course. It can certainly be fun, but it can be very confusing, and your body's changing, and you're going to have these new feelings. Remember in the movie Bambi, how, remember they talk about that great scene, Twitter-pated. They're Twitter-pated. Oh, look at that. Remember the Thumper? Thumper got Twitter-pated, with the lady bunny. And, look, I got Twitter-pated when I remember being in 7th grade. And, okay, this is a true story. I'm in 7th grade. I think I was in math class. And, the teacher called on this friend, acquaintance of mine. I knew her. And, at the time, in 7th, 8th grade, I think maybe I was a freshman. Maybe I was in 8th grade. I forget. Somewhere around 14, 15. He called her up to the front of the class to, do a math problem on the whiteboard. And I was like just transfixed in a zone staring at her butt. Okay, so there I am, 14-year-old Jeremiah, and I think I was just like slumped on my desk like this, just like staring at her butt, just being like, and she turns around and looks at me, and just jolted me out of my little thing, and of course I got extremely embarrassed. I think she even said something. She said like some little comment like, or something, and I remember just feeling mortified, just mortified that she caught me. And all I'm saying is that, the next few years of your life are going to be very interesting. And you're going to be fighting two powerfully conflicting desires. On the one hand, your biology is going to really encourage you to experiment, to kiss your first boyfriend or girlfriend. That's exciting. Have you kissed anybody yet? Maybe. You kind of get a little embarrassed that you don't want to tell me. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. You don't have to share anything with me you don't want to. Anyway. Well, whether or not you've kissed anybody, you're going to kiss more. And it's going to be really exciting. And then you're going to maybe want to do other things. And the advice I'm going to give you is that be very cautious with these new feelings. Because what you're experiencing are very adult feelings. They come with real consequences. You know, when you start getting sexually active, it opens up a Pandora's box, okay? And it becomes several things you really have to worry about. Number one, pregnancy and STDs, okay? And I remember being, that was really driven home to me. Now, you also have to understand when I was a kid, I grew up at the tail end of the AIDS epidemic. It was horrible during the 80s and the 90s. Tens of thousands of people were contracting HIV, which could lead to the disease called AIDS. Are you even familiar with that? Yeah, it's barely talked about anymore. But when I was a kid, it was terrifying. And if you caught HIV or AIDS, it was kind of like a death sentence. And it was really scary. And so, of course, a lot of people practiced abstinence, which is just no sexual contact. But then, of course, there was a huge push to make sure that if you are going to be sexually active, that you must use condoms and be careful out there. So I remember I grew up with there was this huge, scary thing out there. So on the one hand, sex, of course, was the thing that you wanted to do the most, right? It's like on your mind all the time. And at the exact same time, there's this really scary monster known as HIV that was very prevalent when I was, even in my late teens, 17, 18, 19, it was still scary. So I grew up in that world. But I remember, both my mom and dad let me know. I was like, well, Jeremiah, the key, when you're navigating this future, if you have any questions, no matter what, you can ask us. And that goes for you too. Again, if you have any specific question about sex, I don't want to get too graphic, but if you have any questions, I want you to know that your mother and I are here to listen, to answer, and it is just a part of growing up. And what I don't want you to feel is the kind of like shame that I felt. I felt shame around being, horny. I know that sounds weird, but I felt like it made me kind of like dirty and wrong that I wanted to be with girls so bad. I mean, I was just, mind-bendingly hopped up on hormones and so forth, as a kid. And I don't want you to experience that kind of shame or withholding or any need to feel bad or awkward or just like you can't ask us something, So, yeah. So, like I said, you and I live in a modern world, but we still have the brains of a 2 million-year-old hunter-gatherer. And by the time you were 18, if you weren't pregnant and popping out kids, you were starting to get over the hill. And by 20, if you didn't have a family, it was like, yikes, there's something wrong with you. Now, that, of course, has completely changed. And I mean, do you guys still do Shakespeare in school? How old's Juliet in the play? Aren't they both like 13 or 14? I mean, like 15 maybe? I haven't read Romeo and Juliet in a while. The point is, they are kids. Like, they are so young, but they're having these huge feelings. They feel like they're in love, and they feel like they're going to be together forever. But there's this huge family drama, and of course, spoiler alert, they both die at the end. They both commit suicide to be together, and it's this horrible tragedy when, as an adult, you just go like, kids, just wait a few years, just slow down a tickle. Everything will be fine. Just ride it out. Wait till you're 18 and don't do your thing. But anyway, my point is, you're on the verge here of some real big feelings. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's 100% normal. Now, I'm sure they talk about consent. You're familiar with consent? Yeah, and this is extremely important. So, whatever you do with any future friend or partner, make absolutely sure that they want to be doing what you're doing, and that requires communication. You have to ask, okay, do you want to do this with me? Okay, you have to be very clear and make sure that if at any time the person you're with says, hey, no, I don't feel comfortable, that you immediately stop. So if you're kissing, making out, fooling around with somebody, and at any time they hesitate, okay, or say like, I don't feel comfortable, or flat out stop, that you instantly stop what you're doing. Okay? This is incredibly important. You do not want to ever take advantage of somebody. You do not want to ever manipulate or coerce somebody into doing something they are not enthusiastically wanting to do. And that includes you too. If the person you're with is pushing it farther than you would like, at any time, you are 100% allowed to say, I don't want to do that. Can we stop? Okay? That is 1,000% allowed. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Well, I think it is time for you to get to bed. If you have any more questions about this, you'll ask, won't you? Okay, hopefully I didn't embarrass you too bad or gross you out too much. No? Okay. Alright. Well, I love you, kiddo. Your mother and I love you so much, and we think you are just an absolute miracle of awesomeness. Okay? So keep being you. Keep being curious. And sleep tight. And don't let the bed bugs bite. Okay? Okay, pumpkin. Sleep well, and I